A dialogue-less action movie by John Woo, back after a year's absence. Who knew? Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for a new release that came out at the beginning of this month. And it was, believe it or not, guys, an action movie. Not just some action movie. An action movie directed by returning legend himself, John Woo. The legendary director is back after a decade of absence. Or 2 decades of absence. The director was a guy behind movies like Speed, movies like Hard Target, Mission Impossible 2, Twister, many other legendary 90s movies you're all familiar with. He's now back with a John Wick-themed action movie with no dialogue. And that film is going to be December 1st's Silent Night. It's not only directed by John Woo, guys, but it also is from one of the producers of John Wick, and they're both teaming up to make this film. The story is, it's this gritty revenge tale of a tormented father played by Joel Kinnaman who witnesses his young son die when caught in a gang's crossfire on Christmas Eve. While recovering from a wound that cost him his voice, he makes vengeance his life's mission and embarks on a punishing training regimen in order to avenge his son's death. This film is full of John Woo's signature directing style. It redefines the action genre with visceral, thrill-a-minute storytelling. So yeah, how was the movie made? Well, it was around October 2021 when Silent Night would be first announced as an action film with no dialogue, and John Woo would be the director and Joel Kinnaman would be the lead star. Then in March 2022, special effects assistant got injured during pre-production in a stunt trial run in Mexico City, and the crew member was hit by a car, breaking his femur and dislocating his shoulder. Then in April 2022, Kid Cudi, Harold Torres, and Catalina Sutherland Moreno were added to the cast. Principal photography would begin in April 2022 in Mexico City and wrapped on May 17, 2022. And the film score got composed by Marco Beltrami. And of course, to make sure people knew about this, Erica Lee, the producer, would confirm the film would feature 0 dialogue, because he said that it really has no dialogue. It'd be another spec script that he was given and read. He was like it would be either be a genius move or a disaster. There's no in between. It's execution dependent for sure. He means that John Woo kills it to him. Joel Kinnaman is the star and he delivers. He promised. And there's ambient noise in background though, and try radio, but that's all the only noise there is. And he couldn't wait for anybody to see it. And Woo wanted to film the action more realistic and support the emotional drama, instead have the action itself be the entertaining aspect. And it's a signature of his previous films. And to prep for the role of the movie, Joel Kinnaman would try method acting and stopped speaking for the entirety of the shoot. And lack of communication left the actor feeling lonely. After multiple start attempts, he decided that the silent car ride in the first day on set was long enough to get him excited for the film. So, yeah, the film was complete, and Silent Night would go on to be released into theaters by Lionsgate in the United States on December 1st, 2023 to kick off the month. And it's gotten mixed reactions from critics, and it's not doing too good at the box office, sadly. Which really sucks. As for my reaction, well, I saw the trailer for this movie in September, and I got hooked for many things. One, it's directed by John Woo, who's directed many great films from the 90s. him making a comeback after decades of absence was really something to be hyped about. 2, it stars Joel Kinnaman, who had gone on to make better films since The Suicide Squad in 2021. And finally, after a violent night last year, it's nice to see Christmas-themed action films again. So anyway, guys, I saw the film last weekend. And how was it? Now, I've been seeing a lot of people shitting on this movie, but for me personally, I thought it was an enjoyably decent time. Yeah, so in short, I liked it. Didn't love it, but I thought it was pretty fun. It was a pretty fun ride. It was a mindless action film. I mean, I had problems with it, yeah, sure, but we'll get to that later. Like, the movie's probably not going to be satisfying a lot of people, because some people would rather watch a movie with a few $1 million in budget and loads of CGI work, and you might have seen similar movies about revenge and sadness, but everyone grieves differently. So, this movie does it differently. To start off, Silent Night is just undeniably impressive as an exercise in visual storytelling. While Silent Night's premise and script feature many of the hallmarks of the tried-and-true vigilante subgenre of action films, the style and craft that comes from conveying the story and emotions through pantomime is brutally effective, and as much of the credit can be placed on Joel Kinnaman, whose performance is really raw and intense. And despite being an action film, Silent Night does take its time before the action can begin properly. The first 40 minutes or so are kind of focused on Joel Kinnaman's character Brian's breakdown that would lead to him rebuilding himself to a single-minded vehicle of vengeance. And this movie starts off pretty tragically. Joel Kinnaman plays a guy named Brian Goldlock, who's an electrician living a happy life in Las Palmas and Los Angeles, East California, with his wife Saya and young son Taylor Mitchell. One fateful Christmas Eve in 2021, Brian and Taylor are using a new bicycle on their front lawn. They get caught in a crossfire of a drive-by shooting in the middle of a gang war, and Taylor is sadly killed. Brian quickly tries to catch and kill the gangsters, only for the leader of one of the gang's playa to shoot him in the neck and leave him for dead. Brian though survives, but his vocal cords were damaged. And Brian's sad then grieve over Taylor's death, and Saya tries to be emotionally supportive to Brian during his physical recovery. But sadly, because of this, Brian has become cold and distant and focused only on pursuing revenge for Taylor. And Saya becomes emotionally overwhelmed and she ends up leaving Brian, who now plans to kill all the gang members involved in Taylor's death on Christmas Eve in 2022. And with that intro alone, you know the movie you're really about to get. Like, first and foremost, the movie's definitely not going to be for everyone because, yeah, it is dialogue-free. It's truly silent. But it's a few bits of radio chatter and music with action sound effects. It's what sets it apart from other revenge flicks, though, and part of the reason why it feels fresh, even if it's a little problematic. It has to get to the action as quickly as it can, it needs to fill the runtime, it's got a shaky first half, but a very rewarding second half. I think they either love or hate the concept of no dialogue, but I love it. It's one of the more unique action films, it's definitely one of the more unique action films I've seen this year. If this movie had dialogue, to be honest, it wouldn't be that memorable. It would just be another typical revenge flick. Really, that'd be all it is. The story gets told visually through strong acting, the fitting musical score, and the impactful violent action John Woo's expert direction. And for those who think the movie sucks because there's no dialogue, guys, that shouldn't be a valid criticism. Because some of you who probably don't know, movies didn't have dialogue when they were first invented. In the 1900s, films started off with zero dialogue. There would be text pictures that would say the quotes, but there was never any actual character speaking. Dialogue never got invented till the 1930s. And I've seen plenty of great films with zero dialogue, like the John Wick movies. They don't have much dialogue in certain scenes. People love those. The best movie I've seen so far this year is Sisu. The lead never talked until the end of the movie. There's been a few TV episodes with no dialogue that have also worked very well. You have one SpongeBob episode that's literally called Reef Blower. It has zero dialogue. Well, that wasn't the original plan because their voice recorders were broken that day, so they had to record it dialogue-less. since they couldn't work that day. So, but guess what? Despite that problem, it's considered one of the best SpongeBob episodes with no die. It's the only one with no dialogue, and people really loved it anyways. There's this one BoJack Horseman episode with a baby seahorse that didn't have a single ounce of dialogue until the ending, because it was underwater, and well, BoJack didn't know that you could speak through the helmets until the very end, when a passenger got mad at him, or when a pedestrian got mad at him, and he realized there was a button that makes you speak. But regardless, that episode really also is great, right there. Everyone loved that episode. So, complaining about a movie having no dialogue, what kind of criticism is that? That sounds like a pathetic criticism. Hating a film for no dialogue. What were you expecting? A whole bunch of were you guys expecting a bunch of Marvel jokes to ruin the moments? No. This isn't some shitty newer multiverse Marvel film, guys. This is actually a serious revenge action film. Get it in your heads. The acting from Joel Kinnaman, it's very top notch. Even though his character never speaks, he conveys a lot of emotion with his scenes without even saying a single word, and you really feel for his character and the pain he's going through. The direction from John Woo was amazing. He proves why he was one of the best action directors of the 90s. The action is violent when it happens, and it's hard-hitting, expertly crafted and shot. The story is simple and straightforward, and it's something you've seen so many times in an action movie, and it's why the no dialogue makes it unique. Like many movies, start 20 minutes later than movies used to begin. Character building is lost because we're thrown into the action. For this to truly work on a quick popcorn movie, the film would have to be just set over an hour. But we're over a theatrical minimum of 90 minutes. There's a chunk of slow movie scenes at the start, and we get hit over the head with the reasoning behind the vengeance. And it's done in a slow, no dialogue way. And once you get past the first bit, then you can settle in for some good action scenes after getting through the first half. And these action scenes are very rewarding enough to deal with this. Absolutely rewarding enough after you've had to deal with a bit of a slow first half. And as the previous revealed, this is the standard story of families taken or killed, man swears revenge, man gets revenge in a beautiful video game like Bloodbath, but the fact he cannot talk makes the film feel more refreshing and different from all of those kind of stories. There's zero dialogue in this movie except for radios. And it's a different spin on this. It really feels beautiful. There's lots of things blowing up, lots of scowling, lots of blood everywhere, and easily my personal favorite moment in the movie is where this man gets shot multiple times in the span of less than a year and turns into a ripped bodybuilder with perfect athletic ability. No talking, but not much background music, other than that, what the characters are playing on their radios. Another performance in the movie, Catalina Sandino Moreno, also does an equally powerful job balancing the emotions of being the mother of a murdered son, who cannot seem to break through the force field which is surrounding her husband's emotional descent. Moreno was definitely the heart of the film, easily, even though she wasn't in it for most of the film. Yeah, we all know John Woo is known for masterful direction and action sequences. He's also the director of a film, The Killer, which I know is considered one of the best action films of the 20th century. The film builds on this distinguished body of work with jaw-dropping vehicular chase scenes, chaotic shootouts, and visceral hand-to-hand exchanges. And they're all filmed with magnetic precision and its elimination of shaky cam effects, and it leads to a riveting result. And while the film with a traditional martial arts theme of revenge, Kinnaman's lack of convention, training of John Wick, Taken's Brian Miller, Nobody's Hutch Mansell, it's an asset to the film. His attempt to elevate the physical body and fighting skills of people to obliterate the enemies is part of the film's brutal realism. This one's definitely violent in the second half of the film. It's all part of the roller coaster ride. He's this man driven by a singular cause, and we feel his pain. And the entire supporting cast here does an admirable job of telling their part of the story. They're all very good. The villains are definitely a little over the top here, but that makes their demise much more satisfying. Marco Beltrami's score, during the scenes it's in, is as much character in the film as any member of the cast. Music in movies is an important element of the storytelling. Not all scores, though, have the same level of importance. And there's some good, action sequences here. Like one scene, like Good Luck crushes two men with his car, stabs one in the stomach, then flips onto the one then gets flipped onto the hood, and after some driving, is shot dead off screen, and blood pours down Godluck's windshield. Then we also have a gang war between two gangs that takes place, and many gang members get killed as there are two cops, and Godluck tries to save one of the cops, but the cop is shot in the back and gets killed. During that same scene, Godluck shoots at least 5 gangbangers dead, and most of them are during the part when he tries to save the cop. And Godlucker hits a gangbanger filming the gang war with his car, and then shoots him in the back several times and it kills him. Then another gang leader kills a rival gang member with a machete off screen. Sadly, we don't see that, but it's implied. There's this back down chase shootout scene, or car chase shootout scene, and it's where Godluck shoots many of the gang members, some in cars, on a motorcycle, and several on or near a truck. And that's when Playa's second in command crashes his car. Godluck even rams a gang member from his car, going high speed into a pole and kills him. There's many great action sequences to find in this movie, among many other great movies. Many other great moments. Can't speak properly. Yeah, there's plenty of good action in the second half. And I'll admit, the movie ends, well, I wouldn't say it's an overly satisfying ending, but it's an alright ending. Where after that gunfight and fistfight bloodbath, as Brian fights his way to Playa, he finds himself confronted by another cop character named Detective Vassal. And he initially points their guns at one another, but they both silently put them down, and they agree to work as a team so they can just both finish off Playa. And Playa's drug-addicted girlfriend, though, manages to get the drop on them and shoot them both. But Brian then sneaks around and holds her at gunpoint. She then drops her gun and feigns surrender, and when Brian hesitates to kill her, Playa's girlfriend unveils a hidden sidearm and attacks him with it, but Brian manages to kill her and then confronts Playa. Then you have the shootout between Brian and Playa, and during that shootout, Playa manages to literally get the upper hand, and it seems like he's about to shoot Brian in the neck again, but before he can do it a second time, Detective Vassal shoots Playa, and Brian is able to finish him off. However, it's come with a price though. During that fight, Brian and Detective Vassal were both wounded, and they fall to the floor. They look up at the ceiling and the Christmas decorations in the little building they're in. They both bleed out and they die. And Brian sees reflections of his memories of the time he had with his son Taylor, and he hallucinates an alternate future where instead of Taylor being shot and killed and Brian losing his voice, Brian and Taylor are both still alive. And these visions he sees an alternate universe where Taylor graduates from college, gets to grow up, gives Brian a grandson who they bond together with. And Saya opens a letter that Brian wrote her. Here, like, the note his ex-wife reads, it's him apologizing because how cold he became in their marriage, and he thanks her for loving him. And then the note further tells that he knows like he can't make Taylor's death right, but he was gonna die trying. So Saya then she takes the letter to Taylor's grave, where Brian had like pretty much earlier in the movie we see him buy this previously unopened Christmas present, and it's revealed to be a toy train set around the grave that Brian had built off screen, and he set it up around his grave. And she takes a note to the grave and then leaves, and then the movie is over. Right there. So, I'm a little mixed on the ending. Because speaking of that, let's get on to the problems I can agree on with many with this movie. First off, like, the movie's called Silent Night, and it may seem like it's a Christmas-themed action movie, but it just never really feels like one, because there ain't really much Christmas references in it. It's called Silent Night, and the trailers make it look like a Christmas-themed action movie when it's kind of really not. There's like some Christmas elements you see in it, but it's not necessarily really about Christmas at all. And to be honest, guys, despite the good shootout we have in the ending, I feel like the ending is a bit of a dud. Because like how it ends is that Brian has like killed Playa, while teaming up with Vassal, but it never mattered in the end because they both got shot and they died anyway. So, it really sucks. Like, I don't think they should have died. Like, I wish we could have saw, like, Brian survive, and then he goes to make things right with Saya. Like, I get it, like, can't end every movie on a happy note, but still. And I wish it ended with them getting back together, and maybe his throat does start to recover to the point where he can slowly start talking again. And then and his throat then recovers. The first words he could say, if this had a better ending, his throat does slightly start to recover when he meets Saya again. And the first words he does say is, Saya. And then it could just cut to black and you could just figure out what happens. I think I would have liked that better. I don't think Brian or the detective needed to die. I don't think they really did. I mean, it does prevent an unneeded sequel, no doubt, but still. I don't think you needed to kill them off. You could have had a bit of a better ending for them. But regardless, Ply and his crew are at least dead, and that's what matters most. So there's one good thing, and no, even though it's not doing well at the box office, maybe it's a good thing it bombed opening weekend to avoid any unneeded sequels. Like, that way, this movie can stay a standalone movie because it only works as a standalone in my eyes. Like, don't have another Taken 2 or 3. Don't have another Alien 3. Don't have another The Predator. Don't have another RoboCop 3. Don't have another gazillion unneeded Terminator sequels. Don't have another Good Day to Die Hard. Don't have another Expendables 4. What else am I missing? Yeah, don't have another Rambo Last Blood. Okay, don't have any of those. Please, just let this stay on its own. Hell, like, speaking of John, since this is a John Woo movie, certainly don't have another Speed 2 Cruise Control. Especially no. Just let this stay on its own, because it only works as a movie on its own. No franchise. So yeah, Silent Night, screw what people say, I had fun with it. Okay? It was just a fun, mindless action movie. No woke propagandas, no politic bullshit. I enjoyed it, I had a blast. In the end, Silent Night to me is worth a watch and buy in my opinion. Ignore the idiot critics and what they think of it, because it's not even a terrible movie like they want to make it out to be. Anyways, that's it for my view of Silent Night. If you're wondering how I'm going to rank Silent Night, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you are a John Woo fan and want to see him return with a mute action film, then totally watch and buy this movie for your collection, no doubt. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Silent Night, I'm going to give Silent Night a 7.5 out of 10. There you go. That wraps up my review for Silent Night. And, there's 2 other movies I plan to see this month, and they're actually Japanese films. Next review will be for the Hayao Miyazaki film Boy and the Heron. And then this upcoming Friday, I already got tickets for Godzilla Minus One, because it's finally in my area. So I can actually get to see it. That'll be interesting to see. I've heard many great things of Godzilla Minus One. I am excited to check that out. But until then, that'll be it for this Christmas action movie review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.